All right, thank you for staying with us. And this is, a time that everybody must speak up. And that's what it is, especially as it has to do with this nation called Nigeria, the issue of insecurity, which has taken a new dimension. A few weeks ago, a U.S. congressman actually, raised a motion, and he was very particular on the matter, on the allegation of genocide against Christians in Nigeria. But then before that, there have been some voices, especially in the Middle Belt, the place we call the North Central right now, Plateau, Benue, that have been saying there is a pattern to whatever is happening to them there. Talking about the overrunning of their communities, taking, rustling of their cows, cattle. Before, years ago, many persons thought it was a farmer others issue, especially in Benue. But later, someone said this is not a farmer's others issue. And the Tortive said that as well, a few months ago, after the Yelwata attack, which Mr. President visited Benue. By the way, he stayed in Makodi. He didn't go to Yelwata. I think that must be stated there. The Tortive, that's the monarch, one of the monarch there said, Mr. President, please don't confuse this. Don't listen to people that are saying it's a farmer's herders crash. No, there is a pattern to this, but he didn't use the word. The Tortive didn't talk about genocide there. He just said these attacks are rampant and there is a pattern to that. But other persons, have been saying it's like there's a systematic killing going on, in those places. Because when these things happen, those marauders sometimes take over land. And some are saying, in fact, the Tortives say, it's about land grabbing. And these persons, there is a way they talk, there is a religion they profess, and when they kill, they take over those lands. And, and some are saying, maybe the state has been lethargic on this matter because some people cannot come, especially over the years, and in which the pattern is still continuing, take over people's lands. And those that their lands are taken over, they move into IDP camps. Those marauders, they take over those lands, and they are still there. Some of them are there. Sometimes some of them go back to wherever they come back from, and these are the issues. But some are saying insecurity in Nigeria is not just a Benue Plateau thing. It's, it's a national thing. Only that the challenges are quite different. And some are saying what is happening. There is issue of insecurity in Nigeria that is known by everybody, and nobody should shy away from that. But some are saying what is happening, that there are compartments to this. Let's contextualize the conversation, that what is happening in Borno or Yobe is insecurity, but it's different from what is happening in Kebbi and Sokoto. What is happening in Kebbi and Sokoto is different from what is happening from the neighboring state, Zamfara. Especially when you're on your way to Kaduna, you get after Sokoto is Zamfara, and then it's Katsina, and then it's Kaduna. That what is happening there and what is happening in the southeast is quite different as well than what is happening in the south-south. So many layers of insecurity. But the argument is the issue of this genocide. What is genocide? Whatever is happening in Benue and Plateau, and maybe some part of Kaduna, especially southern Kaduna, especially in the last 3 years, the issue in southern Kaduna, it's a bit subsided right now. For the people of Benue and Plateau, they are talking, can that be considered a genocide? And now, some Nigerians are even bothered to say, is this a we versus them thing? Is it a conversation of how many Muslims have been killed, or how many Christians have been killed, or how many atheists or traditionalists have been killed? Some are saying this is even a shameful thing to now be counting fatalities along religious lines. Now, the latest in this supposed intervention of the U.S., which some are saying, in what capacity is the U.S. doing this? All of a sudden, they are moving from 0 to 10, where Mr. Donald Trump, there you go, is tweet over the weekend talking about Christianity facing an existential threat in Nigeria. And he said, we stand ready, willing, and able to save a great Christian population around the world. And he said he has told the congressmen that they have to do what they have to do, Mike Riley, together with Chairman Tom Cole. And of course, he released another statement to that effect, which was highlighted by the Defense Secretary the man there, Pete Exeth, in another tweet, I think there is another one, not these, actually, where Mr. Trump talked tough about the matter. And I would like that tweet to be put right. There you go. Where Mr. Donald Trump said, if the Nigerian government continues to allow the killing of Christians, the U.S. will immediately stop all aid. And by the way, we must put it on note that Nigeria has been designated as a country of particular concern by Mr. Trump again, because Nigeria was designated, I think, before during Mr. Trump, I think, first time, and it took Joe Biden to remove Nigeria in 2020. Now Nigeria is back there. The U.S. will immediately stop all the aid and assistance to Nigeria and may very well go into what now? Into that now disgraced country. Some are saying these are extreme words. How can you, tag another sovereign state to be a disgraced country? Guns are blazing to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible atrocities. I'm hereby instructing our Department of War to prepare for possible action. If we attack, it will be fast, vicious, and sweet. Interesting narrative there. Just like the terrorist thugs attack our cherished Christians, the Nigerian government better move fast. Some are regarding this to be a threat. Why is it threatening us? I mean, the Nigerian state and the leaders and the government. And you could see the highlighting, yes, sir, from the Defense Secretary, that's Peter Exet, saying the killing of innocent Christians in Nigeria and anywhere must end immediately. The Department of War is preparing for action. Either the Nigerian government protects Christians or we will kill, these are strong words, Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible atrocities. And this is where we are. And the Nigerian government has responded as well, even over the weekend, in their own statement, where they said, since 2023, in a personal statement signed by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, administration has maintained an open and active engagement with Christian and Muslim leaders alike and continues to address security challenges which affect citizens across faiths and religions. The characterization of Nigeria as religiously intolerant does not reflect our national reality, nor does it take into consideration the consistent and sincere effort of the government to safeguard freedom of religion and beliefs for all Nigerians. And the last paragraph there says our administration is committed to working with the United States government and the international community to deepen understanding and cooperation and protection of communities of all faiths. Bayo Onanuga, in a statement released 2 days ago, talked about, an orchestrated game going on in the U.S. That was the way he described it. And that the Nigerian president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is ahead of it, whatever that means. We have two gentlemen, Nigerians, by all means and standard, that will be laying, their thought on this matter today. Dr. Kacha Onuju is the DJ at Heritage Center, a public affairs analyst and politician. By the way, we started the conversation with him yesterday, and, because of constraint of time, we had to continue with it today. Dr. Kach, good morning. Thank you for joining us again.
Good morning.
All right, thank you very much. And we have with us another doctor, Dr. Misbah Alamu Latif. He is a law lecturer. He is a legal practitioner, of course, a public affairs analyst. Dr. Latif, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you.
All right, so let me pick it up from you. Dr. Latif, here we are. I'm very 101%. You are abreast of this information. And here we are. Your country, my country, is where we are right now. Let's start from the beginning. The beginning is the allegation of persecution against Christians in Nigeria, and which many Nigerians have said maybe is not on a national scale, but maybe there is a pattern on the plateau and in Benue that have given rise to this narrative. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think the first place to start for me as a patriotic and responsible citizen and human being, generally speaking, if you like, conscientious human being, is to acknowledge that Nigeria does have these security challenges. There are killings all over the places, and this has continued for far too long in a manner that clearly, I would say, indict our I would say, irresponsible political elites who have allowed this to drag for this long. I mean, governments, successive governments, I mean, they've claimed to have done different things. So having said that, I mean, that acknowledgement, I think there is an unfortunate mischaracterization of the issue by reducing all of this, to mass killing or genocide, against a particular religion or a particular set of people. And I think this is what has actually muddled the water. It would have been more appropriate for people, or many people who have attended to this issue, to frame it properly in its right context. And that is what I said earlier, that yes, we have this crisis and they are quite damning. But then to reduce that to genocide against Christian or Muslim or any particular tribe, I think would be most, would be most unfair and something quite unfortunate as well, and which, as I said, has muddled the water. And unfortunately, President Donald Trump of America has also weighed in on that, I would say, mischaracterization in a manner to, in his characteristic manner of lack of decorous and regard, for rules and norms. And of course, we know that Trump has a global reputation for being abrasive, for disregard of rules, order. I mean, it's just simply someone who wants to have his way all of the time. So, but then, as I said, I do not agree with the characterization of the crisis as a genocide against Christian or against any particular tribe. I think it's a general security issue or insecurity, if you ask me, which has festered for long and ought to have been nipped in the bud before now. And this is why, for me, as much as I feel personally, I would say, disappointed in Trump, and even anger by his clearly irresponsible remarks against Nigeria, calling Nigeria a disgraced state, and using all of those other, clearly uncouth and words. As much as I really want to feel angered by that, I think there is also the positive side. And that positive side is that, and this is an irony anyway, that positive side is that his negative remark, as negative as they are, should serve, as a wake-up call, to the country and Nigerians, to rise to this occasion and speak in one single-minded approach, to address the security challenges in the country. The crisis, as I said earlier, has stayed too long.
Yeah. All right. Now, looking at the word, for the benefit of those listening and watching to us, the word, because this seems to be maybe the crux of the matter, to say there is a genocide. The issue of insecurity, everybody knows. We can't deflect anymore, because some even think deflecting the issue, shrugging it off, is part of what has gotten us here. We have issues, see, insecurity on our hands, and it seems not abating. But the word genocide, according to Oxford Language Dictionary, says the deliberate and systematic killing or persecution of a large number of people from a particular national or ethnic group with the aim of destroying that nation or group deliberately, systematically. These are the words. Now, Dr. Lateef, before I come to Dr. Ononiju, with this definition, which I know, definitely you're a man of letters yourself, but for the purpose of people watching us, don't you think that in a kind of way fit in, and I'm isolating what is happening in Benue and Plateau? Some Nigerians have said the word genocide, if actually is happening, doesn't have a national spread. But how do you explain what has been happening in Benue and in Plateau, where these Moraders, in fact, some even said they are not part of us. They might be of a particular stock, but maybe not the ones in Nigeria are the ones doing this, in which they take over people, rape, do whatever, do terrible things, and they take over those lands, and this has been happening. You don't think it fits in for what is happening in the North Central?
let me start by saying I don't think it fits in, and I don't think Oxford Dictionary, or which one you mentioned now, is the appropriate recourse. You see, there is Article 2 of the 1948 UN Convention on the Prevention of Crime of Genocide and all of that,
right,
which clearly lays bare, the legal definition of the word genocide. And I'm not trying to be legalist here. You see, the word genocide is technical and has been well defined in international law jurisprudence, and also sensitive, so much so that even America, in their characteristic hypocrisy, up till now, despite all the killings that you have seen in Gaza, I mean, the Israeli genocide, and I say genocide here because the UN agencies and other international institutions have affirmed that, okay, America has up till now not agreed to that term. So the term is so sensitive that you cannot just, label, and it's unfortunate that we have mass killing in Nigeria, and I call it mass killing. Many people have died, and we can't begin to really quantify the value of human lives now. So no life is worth, losing in the manner we have seen them and the scale in Nigeria. But that regardless, when you say genocide, what you are saying is that Christian, for example, or Muslim have been literally obliterated from a particular place. In all of these places that you mentioned, we still have Christians there who still live their normal life. So the fact that Christians in those places still live their normal life tells you that what you have there is not genocide. The fact that you still have Muslim and other tribes, it will have been genocide if, for example, the Christians or the Muslim, as the case may be, have been literally wiped off or actually threatened. There are Christians in Borno. There are Christians in everywhere in all of the places. So basically for me, I think, as I said earlier, the mischaracterization of the crisis is another problem on its own and has contributed, to muddling the waters. And this is why, rather than spending quality time, addressing the crisis, we are looking for definition of genocide or what is not genocide. For me, I think the important thing is to focus on how to cope this mindless, killing of our people.
All right, Doctor.
And even in doing that, to overlook, I would say, the nuisance, and I say that with all sorts of responsibility, coming from America. And it is really a nuisance in the realm of international law.
All right. Part of identifying, before we provide a solution, you must contextualize and, of course, identify what the issues are. That's why there is no language class, and definitely I know you know. But it's just to identify what we are really talking about. Because you talk about mischaracterization, and Nigerians would like to say, okay, is it what it is? That was just Oxford Dictionary. But according to the UN themselves, they say to constitute genocide, there must be a proven intent on the part of the perpetrators to physically destroy a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group. And that is from the UN itself. But let me go. I'll come back to you, sir. Let me go to Dr. Kaj. Dr. Kaj, here we are. We started this conversation with you yesterday, and this is where it is. And for you, you are well-traveled and you have a fair knowledge, especially of that end, the North Central, a substantial part of the North. And Dr. Misbah said, by all means and standard, there is mass killing in Nigeria, but it is a mischaracterization for Mr. Trump to say, for Mr. Trump to say it is genocide and whatever has been coming, the tagging of Nigeria with those extreme words. Your take on that?
Well, what I would like to say, it's good that we're here.
Yes.
Me and you have discussed this months before now. And I think we're here because, as my gentleman friend who had just spoken before me has said, it has been lingering. What has been lingering is the Islamic Jihad. And the reasons why we have international interventions now is because of the inability of our governments to stop it. The last stories of attempts to bring peace we had told us that the jihadists came to the meetings with their grenade launchers, with their submachine guns, and the state of Nigeria allow them to go back to the territories that they hold carrying those weapons. What that means is an attempt to show that our government under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not competent enough to secure the country. Now, why were the jihadists interested in the Benue Basin, the Plateau Highlands, and the Mambila Plains? Simply, they have water. As General Tiwa Danjuma said, they have water. Once you have water, they will come in. And why is it this bad? Because as General Tiwa Danjuma, former Chief of Army Staff, said, there is a collusion. If you noticed, the minute the president changed the Chief of General Staff and I was the Chief of Army Staff, the first thing he did within 24 hours was to announce a change of military formation commands, which we thought should have happened after General Danjuma told the world that the soldiers posted currently by President Buhari were colluding with the jihadists. What Tinubu should have done since he came in is to change so that he can take control of the armed forces who are said to be colluding with the jihadists. Why are the jihadists interested in wiping away these vast Christian populations in southern Kaduna, in Taraba, in Benue State, in Plateau State? Because most of them came from central Mali. The war in central Mali, I traveled, I've been with this issue since 2010, when they were driven away from Central African Republic and they came up to Benue State. But Benue State that time didn't have land to give them, and that was why they had that trouble with Governor Suswan. As Buhari came in 2015, there was a crisis in central Mali. But instead of negotiating and finding ways with other leaders to actually implement the 2015 peace agreement so that the Fulanis who are being driven from central Mali could settle back in the country, no, Buhari came to Nigeria and was promoting different kind of fraudulent schemes to gain land to resettle them. That was why he tried what he called the cattle resettlement policy. Nigerians refused. He now said grazing reserve, taking land from every local government across Nigeria. Nigerians refused. Because Nigerians are emotionally attached to land, just like other Africans. At that time, the Kano state governor said, look, if it is land and water, Kano has enough land and water. Let the refugees come to Kano. Don't forget, Buhari purposely disarmed all Nigerians, told everybody to hand in their den gun. Yet, these refugees who were coming into Nigeria with guns were allowed to bring their guns in. For you to understand the premeditated intentions of the Buhari administration in launching the jihad. So he now started other schemes at the national legislature, like the consolidation of underground and surface water, plus 3 kilometers on both sides of the water of the embarking land. This was also rejected at the National Assembly. I remember it was that rejection that after that rejection, championed by Senator Akpabio, the next Tuesday, EFCC came to arrest Akpabio, and that was the process of Akpabio getting into APC. Now, I am saying this because I've been following this issue. Right. So Buhari have tried different schemes to gain land to resettle these Fulani refugees. He couldn't get it. That was why the Fulani leaders now decided to embark on ethnic cleansing as a direct way of gaining land so as to be able to resettle these refugees. And every time when you now do a jihad, you must encourage genocide.
All right.
Genocide is the purpose wiping out of a people for particular intention. What is the intention? To gain land for resettle these Fulani refugees coming from all over. Don't forget, the killings were not done just by anybody. They were being perpetrated by elements of the militia group called Gandokoyi, the militia group called the Miyetti Allah Call to Hore. Call to Hore is headed by Abdullahi Bodejo. The other one is the Tabita Polako, where you see Bello Turuji well there. Now, our problem is, Tinubu didn't start this jihad. Buhari started it. After 2 years of Tinubu's governance as president, Tinubu has not done anything to stop it. This is where this problem is. Me and you could live in Lagos, Ogun, and Ibadan and be saying anything we want. The people in Benue State are 98% Christians. And the people who kill them are 100% Muslims who scream Allahu Akbar before they go in to start killing and taking land. Same thing with Plateau State, same thing with Taraba State, same thing with Benue State. That is why they think the reasons why they are targeted and being killed and the government is not doing anything in a Muslim presidency in a Christian majority country like Nigeria is because they want their land.
All right. By inference, you are saying the issue of, you know, the jihad and all of those things, according to you, festered under and was promoted, by the way, largely under the administration of the late Muhammadu Buhari. And you have said you only blame me, according to you, President Tinubu, because he hasn't done, according to you, anything to stem that tide. You talked about the change of security chiefs. By the way, it is on record that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has changed the security chiefs twice. First, a full-scale change on 19 June 2023, when all service chiefs and the Inspector General of Police were retired and replaced, all of them. Now, these almost 90% change that just happened, you know, a few weeks, just like a week ago or thereabout, 24th of October, second full-scale overhaul, and that means he has done it twice because he said he hasn't done anything and he has been addressing these issues. Mr. President himself said there are issues. He has agreed. And, you know, when he went to Benue, he was asking the IGP, where are the arrests? When the issue of yellow water came up. So, will it be fair on President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for you to have said he hasn't really done anything? Do you mean he hasn't done anything to address the situation, or he hasn't done enough? I'd like us to clarify that.
He has done a lot of rhetorics, but the rhetorics have not converted to actions. Despite the rhetorics and the promises he's made, the ethnic cleansings on industrial scales have continued in Benue and in Plateau, and that was why the bishops of Benue State, Benue is 98% Christians. The bishops are the ones who travel to the United States and lay this claim that they suspect the reasons why the president has not done anything is because they are Christians. And that's why the ethnic cleansings on industrial scale has continued. Don't forget, there is nothing like Heda's farmers' crisis anywhere in Nigeria. What we have is a strategic attempt by the Fulani leaders to gain land and use those land to resettle Fulani refugees coming from all over the sub-region. Now, if you ask me, the killings, are they organized? Yes, they are organized. I know this because I have followed this issue and covered this issue on television for 12 years of my life, and I have the scars, and I understand it. Because of this issue, I've traveled to Mali, I've traveled to Senegal, I've been to Sierra Leone, I've been to the Gambia. I have also been to Burkina Faso, Nigeria, and Chad. I have been to Central African Republic to understand how come problems from these people who come from there is not trying to burn the country.
All right.
Our offense as of today is that the Tinubu administration has not been able to fashion a strategy against the Fulani jihad in 2 years of existence.
All right.
Tinubu didn't start it.
Yeah.
But Tinubu's behavior seemed to have condoned it. For him to have been playing politics of 2027 for 2 years and not stopping the jihad, this is where the struggle is.
All right, Dr. Koach, you know, I've spoken to a lot of Muslims, and many of them, under different associations, has come out to say it is not permitted, that those that are doing that, irrespective of the language they speak, I mean, those killers, either as insurgents, as bandits, as kidnappers, that whoever they are and whatever they profess or they shout or they chant, that it doesn't have a place in Islam. In fact, many persons have said this should not happen. So, categorizing them that they are of Islamic faith, would that be fair enough? But before you answer that, and I'd like to go to Dr. Lateef as well, There are many videos in the public space right now that is getting so many persons worried, even Muslims, even those that doesn't have any faith, that this cannot continue to happen. And especially one Reverend Ezekiel Dachom from Plateau. I'd like you, gentlemen, and of course people watching, to take a look at it. In fact, many of those videos are so gory that we can't just put it up on air. But, you know, you need to see this.
Please, allow us to rest. I've been speaking since in the morning, and I have a lot to say again. Come and see how this man's head was butchered at the point of death. I could have rushed to this place to perform burial, but I was in Ruku, I was in Kurum, where those women were butchered on the ground. Come and see, mutilated body, did by Fulani terrorists. There are good Fulani. They don't love this crisis. There are good Muslims. They are bleeding because of this crisis. They don't want it, and I know. But the terrorists in Islam are busy becoming a tools in the hands of politicians.
All right, let me start from Dr. Lateef. You know, I don't know if you've seen this video. It's much longer, and many videos coming from this man in Plateau. Many of them, there was a particular in which he was speaking from a mass grave, where the man, this same man, has gone to bury many persons, and in many places like that, that man is from Plateau, and you just heard what he said, and it has been going on for long. This is what they say. This is what they chant when they come, and they have been overrunning their communities. How do you respond to such, you know, a video? Not just because it's a video, the passion and of course the helplessness coming from those places.
Well, you see, like I said earlier, no reasonable Nigerian and patriotic one for that matter would deny this reality. You know, this particular video and quite many more that I have seen, you know, they attest to the unfortunate, horrific reality of some of our people in parts of the country. And we cannot, you know, speak against those enough. And what I'm going to say generally to all of this is that that video that you saw is just one-sided video. There are other videos of other people on the other side, Muslims and non-Muslim, you know, who have been victim of similar or even worse attack. We've seen mosque bombed. We've seen religious center in predominantly Muslim community. You see, I'm always very careful to speak along these lines because, as I said earlier, this crisis do not really, I would say, discriminate against Muslim or Christian. And this is why I think all of us should speak in one single-minded, you know, way, you know, to address the crisis. Having said that, and I condemn those, and we will continue to condemn them, and they also attest, I should say, to failure of government over the years. And having said that, I think I want to, with due respect, disagree with Mr. Kachi or Dr. Kachi when he said what we have seen so far demonstrate the incompetence of the president. I'm not a spokesperson of the president, but I can say with all sense of responsibility and from facts available in public domain that it would be totally unfair to actually say this government has done nothing, you know, over insecurity challenges in Nigeria. Whatever you say, I mean, we might say that the progress has not been significant. We might say because we have not won the war, then, I mean, we can't really, you know, boast about any success or whatever, but there's something you cannot say unless you are not objective. And that thing is, you cannot say that the insecurity challenges has worsened under this government or in 2 years. I don't think anyone with, I would say, sense of objectivity and even conscience or good conscience will say that in 2 years, things have become worse. No, they have not become worse. The fact that they have not become worse, for me, is a testament to the fact that this government has done something and they are still working at it. We also like to, you know, I don't like labels. I know about Islamic jihadists and all of those other labels. You know, some of these labels, they are convenient labels that people throw around based on conspiracy theories and all of that. The idea that President Muhammadu Buhari or the general suggestion that the government has been complicit in this is is something I do not also want to subscribe to. Yes, this crisis has been allowed to go on for long, and as I said earlier, this shows how irresponsible our government has been. But to suggest that the state has been complicit or that there is a deliberate agenda to, like I said earlier, the truth is that in all of this community, you see our Christians there, where Christians are being purportedly, targeted deliberately to exterminate them or to obliterate them, or even Muslim too. So what I'm going to say, to conclude this is basically that this is a crisis that is, that is very depressing to all of us.
All right.
And it's a crisis that we just speak against. I'm surprised in particular that Dr. Kachi, for example, has not characterized what we see in the eastern part of Nigeria. There are also mass killings in the east. Who are those killing them? Are they also Islamic jihadists? Are they also Muslims? So these are the things that we should all focus on.
All right.
Let us address this issue with single-minded.
All right, and that's why we are here to do all of that. We are due for a break right now. When we return, we speak to these issues now, especially the intervention of the United States of America and these, and how do we deal with this? Actually, there is a lot to unpack and to unravel as far as these issues are concerned. Stay with us. Thank you very much for staying with us. We're talking about this pressing issue of allegation of genocide going on in Nigeria and the U.S. Breathing, off the neck of the people in government to say, put your ass together. We might be forced to intervene because the War Department is ready, to save, quote unquote, the Christians in Nigeria from persecution because of the docility, or sort of complicit approach of the people in power. And we have two doctors with us, Dr. Kajan Onuju and Dr. Misbah Alamu-Latif. Thank you, gentlemen, for staying with me. Mr. Alamu-Latif, Dr. Latif, you are going to land on your thoughts. And quickly, let me add, so that you put it together, this Islamic Jihad thing that has been thrown into the mix, that has been used over and over by some persons in Nigeria and by Mr. Trump himself, do you think in a kind of way it is real? Let's start from, you are going to land on your thought. Please add that as well, Dr. Latif.
Okay, let me conclude with my thought first by saying that I was wondering what Dr. Kachi, or how he would characterize, those, killing people in mass, in the East, whether I will characterize them as Christian evangelists or freedom fighters or whatever it is. So I'm saying, let us call criminals who they are. Even if they profess to any religion or any ethnicity, we should identify that they are criminals. Yes, they are the crisis in the Northeast and the banditry and all of that. I can, with all sense of responsibility, acknowledge that is dominated by people who profess to be Muslim or who claim to be Muslim. But you see, all of this label, Islamic jihadists, as Dr. Kachi has repeatedly said, and what Trump said when he said radical Islamists, these are convenient labels that are being used and overused, around the world for people who twist them at different times. In Syria, as I speak to you now, the president of Syria was once the leader of Al-Qaeda. Donald Trump of America, or America of Donald Trump, literally fought a war against them, sponsored them. Today, they are together in the same bed. I wonder if they will see describing
Dr. Latif, I just want a confirmation from you if actually you think there is a Islamic jihadist movement going on in Nigeria.
I don't think there is Islamic jihadist movement, and I think that's one of the fallacies that people throw around. They claim that, for example, there is an attempt to Islamize Nigeria or Christianize Nigeria. Those are, for me, with due respect to people who say it, you know, they are very fallacious, they are dumb things, pedestrian things that people throw around, around theory, just to justify, you know, their own prejudices. They are criminals among Muslims. They are criminals among Christians. They are criminals among people who do not profess any religions. And they are everywhere. In the East, in the North, in the South, in the West. They are everywhere.
All right. You know, many questions from that, but I'd like to go to Dr. Kachina. But in 1 minute, let me stay with you. So, if you say, you know, with what you have seen from your own submission that there is no Islamic movement, it's just a convenient characterization of whatever is going on, how do you address the issue? There are different challenges, East, West, North, but Benue and Plateau, how do you address or explain situation where these people, whatever name they are called, come, kill, batter, kill smart, you know, children, infants, even children strapped to their mother's back. They are butchered in cold blood and they take over people's land and they stay there. What do you call that?
You see, I call them criminals who probably belong to Islam or who claim to be Muslims. The same way you have criminals in the southeast of Nigeria who probably belong to Christianity or whatever other religion. What I'm saying is this: they are radical Muslims, they are radical Christian, they are criminal Christian, they are criminal Muslim. They are people who profess to one religion or the other and carry out crime in the name of those religions. What I'm saying is that I don't think, and this is my well-thought opinion, there is a deliberate attempt by Muslim of the North or any part of Nigeria to obliterate the Christian or others. In Benue and Plateau, as you said, these are essentially, for me, as I see it, you know, I was born in the North. I speak Hausa as I speak to you now. I call myself Kaduna boy. I was born in the North during the so-called Maitatsin crisis. You know, the crisis. So all of these things, they are really perennial crises.
I teach full food. I teach.
Yeah.
That predated this time. You know, crisis bordering on land. You know, rust. You know, and all of those things.
All right, Dr. Kach. I mean, yeah, Dr. Latif, I'll come back to you.
Yes.
Dr. Kach. You know, it seems you gentlemen have some agreements, and you know, stemming from the fact that there is criminality going on, there is insecurity going on. But what Dr. Latif will not subscribe to is the word genocide or Islamic jihadist movement going on, even though he said the government needs to do more. You don't still agree with that?
Well, I think Dr. Latif has his words, but I believe he speaks out of ignorance of what's going on in the North. I, myself, I teach Hausa. I speak Fulfulde, as I've demonstrated severally on television. I knew this issue. It is a Fulani jihad. It didn't just, it's across the Sahel. The problem we have is it's come to Nigeria. My complaint against Tinubu is it has been in Nigeria since he's been president for 2 years. He has not been able, even though, yes, he has intentions to stop it. I think his plottings about re-election in 2007 to 2027 has undermined his ability to arrest the Fulani jihad. The Fulani jihad is real. Me and you, we've had this talk before. Me and you have spoken about this months before now. The Fulani jihad is real. Don't sugarcoat it. We all of us now, we are talking on television because we are not affected. The people who are being killed, the people who are burying their people every day, they know. They are the ones who went to complain in America. Bishops from Benue State. Not me and you and Latif. No. It is the man who feels the pain that can tell you how the pain is. Not analysts who are talking from thousands of kilometers away from where this has happened. I lived in the North. I grew up as a child in the North. I schooled in Jos. Nina ear house Kuba had the one Nina ear Pulpode. And I can tell you I know what's been going on. The Fulani are on a rampage. The problem we have, the problem we have is that Our government under President Tinubu has not yet calibrated a response to the Fulani jihad. The jihad is real. My brother, don't deny it.
All right.
The jihad is real.
All right, gentlemen.
When the jihad got to Oyo, if
all right,
anyone was
gentlemen.
to take over the Oyo Forest Reserve,
all right.
that was how you saw Sunday Igboho organize to go and try to stop them.
I think Dr. Kachi has not been.
Our problem is.
All right, please hold on.
How do we
Dr. Lateef, please
stop
hold
the
on.
Fulani?
Yeah.
How do we stop the Fulani war? This is the problem.
All right,
If the
gentlemen.
Americans, as they've said, they can come and they help us take us Bello Turuji, Bello Bodejo, and the other elements of the Fulani jihad, that's good.
All right.
Whether you like it or not, Tinubu has tried, but his tryings are not enough.
Hold on.
The
Hold on.
war is still raging.
All
That's
right.
why we're having this conversation.
All right. I will come back to you, gentlemen. You know, it is quite interesting. And, you know, the beauty of this conversation as we hold it every day is, you know, the diverse angles and dynamics and opinions, strategies, and maybe personality that we usually have on this program. One thing I can infer is that you gentlemen and everybody that we usually talk to, we will always talk from a place of patriotism. Because either we are in Bermuda, or in Tebe, or Agumbele, or in Oshogbo, or in Lagos, or in UK, or in Port Harcourt, this is our only nation. So everybody's opinion is valid. And gentlemen, I don't want us to go personal. Let's just speak to the issues. Dr. Lateef, you are going to land, I mean, you wanted to respond to something. I'll give you a minute because we need to now talk about the American dimension to this. You have the floor now. 1 minute.
You know, I'm just going to say that, you know, Dr. Kachi has not really been consistent with his labeling. You know, initially he was hammering on Islamic jihadists and suddenly he changed to Fulani jihadists. You know, if he had restricted himself to Fulani jihadists, maybe I would have agreed with them. I know about the incursion from the Sahel. I know about all of that. There have been attempts to overrun land and all of those. But do you know that Fulani are not necessarily Muslim? In fact, they are not significantly Muslims. So, and this is why I said we should be very careful how we use labels so that we don't use those to actually muddy the waters. And that's my point. Really.
All right.
And I was telling you.
Yeah. Let me start this with you before I come back to Dr. Kach. What do you think, with what we are seeing, Donald Trump has taken it from 0 to 10. He started, you know, with a U.S. congressman who raised the issue. And by the way, he's not even the first. There are so many persons who have talked about this matter before now, about this issue. That's Senator Ted Cruz, and then Mike Riley, and then some persons. Now, Mr. Trump has designated Nigeria as a CPC. I'm not talking about the political party now. Country of particular concern, and, you know, by implication, the consequences will be international pressure, you know, cutting of AIDS, the IMF, the, you know, World Bank, and all of those persons may be not playing ball with Nigeria again because, you know, the U.S. is a significant donor or partners or ally of some of these countries and organizations. And this is where we are. And for the Defense Secretary, just in that tweet, if you can have it again, to say, you know, it was Mr. Trump talking about, and, you know, regarding Nigeria, tagging us as a disgraced country, and he's going to go guns a-blazing to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible atrocities. I'd like you to take it from there, Dr. Lateef. These are very strong words. Although Nigerians will say, if he's going to come and take off or take out these Islamic terrorists, they will say, you will only be afraid if you're part of the Islamic terrorists. They are enemies of the land, so if they are going to be taken off, it's fine. But some will say, what capacity is the U.S. doing this? What do you think is the need for them?
All right, thank you. You know, there are two tweets here. I mean, if I can call, I think it's tweet, or what do they call it again now?
Yeah.
The first one was not really as offensive as the second one. I think the first one, if you ask me, you know, I would say guidedly frame the issues like Christians are being murdered in, you know, thousands, and then it referred to Islamic, radical Islamists and all of those.
Yeah.
So I don't really have much, you know, offense with the first tweet. The second one is the most, I would say, irresponsible one. I'm being deliberate with my choice of words here. He referred to Nigeria as a disgraced state. He said it's going to come gun blazing. You know, these are quite irresponsible languages. that are not allowed in diplomatic circle. And of course, like I said earlier, President Trump has a global reputation for being abrasive, you know, for being, he lacked finesse. I mean, so, but having said that, and despite my anger, and I did say this earlier, I want to focus on the positive side of all of this, which is, again, drawing our attention to the significance of this issue, the insecurity in Nigeria. Now, under international law, does President Trump have the power to just walk into Nigeria and do what he claims he wants to do? The answer is absolutely no. But unfortunately, we know that the US has the capacity to do that. They have done that repeatedly in several places. They have no regard for law, particularly under Trump. They have no regard for diplomacy. They have no regard for international law. And this is where I think, well, they have the capacity or capability. But will he do it? I doubt it. You know, remember, this was the same way he huff and puff about going to Gaza, turning it to a real estate or whatever, or even invading Canada or invading Venezuela. He has made this threat up and down. I think people who understand the psychology of Trump know that he's only looking for attention. And for as long as you are able to massage his ego, you know, go to him crawling and begging him, you probably have your way with him. Most of the things they say, he just said them to empty here.
All right.
And this is why I'm surprised when just 2 days ago, a defense attorney in America actually described Trump as somebody who is not mentally stable. I mean, that's their own words, not even my choice of word. Obama just 2 days ago described him as lawless, described him as reckless. So for me, I don't really attach much regard to Donald Trump or even Ted Cruz. These are racists. I mean, they are white supremacists, racists, whose ideology are not exactly consistent with what they purport, you know, to sell to other parts of the world.
Let me go to Dr. Kaj. Right. Dr. Kaj, here you go. You know, I think I hinged on this yesterday as well. Donald Trump has called your country, my country, a disgraced one, as is going to come gun blazing. The Defense Secretary has said, yes, sir, just give the order. We are ready. Don't you think that is, for all intent and purpose, ridiculous? You don't think so?
I don't think so. Nigeria was disgraced when the government allowed the terrorists to attend meetings with their guns, with their armored personnel carriers, with their grenade launchers, and the army was just watching them. And then they went back and allowed the terrorists to keep territory.
Dr. Kaj, these meetings that you refer to, hold on, sir, this meeting that you refer to called at the instance of the communities and those bandits. It's not like they are called by the Nigerian government or the military.
I am just anything that happens by government, local government, state government, federal government is called by government. The federal government would know about what's going on. And I tell you, Nigeria is disgraced because we now handed over those territories to the terrorists. And that's why me and you are saying different things. A lot of people are happy. If Trump will come to Nigeria and take out the Fulani jihadists, we'll be very happy. The jihadists have been a problem since Bola Tinubu wrote his note on both X, which is what before Twitter, talking about the killing of Christians. 2014, Bola Tinubu did this. They were the first people who went to the US, APC, to complain to the United States about the genocide. The genocide has continued since they are in. At the beginning of that complaint, we thought it was farmers' headers crisis, but now we found out it's an elaborate, deliberate Fulani strategy to overrun several areas. By the way, the Muslims you see who are killed in Basari, in Sapana, in Dutsima, in Malumpashi, in Kankara, in Amusa, in places like Kwatarakwashi, in Bungudu, in Angobe, in Guronyo, in Ensedawu, in Maru, in Anka. These are Hausas. Hausas to Fulani jihadists are seen as expendable Muslims, and so I call them collateral damage of the Fulani jihad. We need to understand this problem. There are a lot of Nigerians who don't know what's going on. But now they're on television trying to defend because Tinubu government either told them, do this, talk this, say this. I'm not that. I have been on this issue with your program. I was here with you. I fought with you 2 months ago on this issue. So now that the Americans have come in to say that what I was discussing with you is true, what I pray is for us to stop this genocide.
All right.
It is a genocide.
All right.
Don't joke about it. The Fulanis are interested in the Middle Belt. Don't pretend.
Dr. Kaj, now, some have said, you know, for antecedents, for history, and by the way, we have the lawyer on the other side because they talk about history, I've forgotten the right word they use right now, recurring to issues that have happened or the jurisprudence or case studies of the past. Now, some have said, when you check the history of America, they intervened, whatever they are calling intervention right now, in Syria. Syria are being led by non-state actors right now. They intervene in Libya. Libya is never the same. They intervene in Afghanistan. Afghanistan is never the same. Will you hope, I mean, will you imagine that a day will come, if actually he makes good of his threat, Dr. Kacha said he's just looking for attention. Peradventure, he goes ahead and Nigeria falls. Because that's the fear, that the USA will never do things for you because they are your big brother, because they care. There will always be something you need for them. Do we want a situation in which Nigeria will turn to a Syria, Afghanistan, Kabul, all of those things? You don't think maybe there is that possibility?
So that, I will tell you, Nigeria has not worked as a British experiment. And that's why you saw from 1978, the Muslims, who at the end of the Civil War were 35% of Nigeria's population, now started a scheme through a cascade of coups to take control of Nigeria. That coup brought in first Buhari, who didn't want a Kweme Christian to succeed Shagari, then Babangida, who maintained and took Nigeria into OIC, and then Abacha, who did everything to maintain that Islamic understanding. When Obasanjo was brought out from prison and made president, he was given a manual written by the soldiers as constitution. Till as we are speaking today, Nigeria doesn't have a constitution written by the people of Nigeria. So it's been a struggle by Muslims to dominate the country. But the problem the Muslims have had is, due to the demands of democracy and Nigeria being a Christian majority country, what comes they don't like, that's what they do, have never allowed free and fair elections. You saw what happened in the last election. As we were collecting results, the Muslims stopped the collation and switch off the server.
How do you mean? How do you mean the Muslims stop the server? A certain Goodluck Jonathan has been president in this country.
Hold on, please, let me help you.
Obasanjo has been president in this country. I like us to speak to these issues.
Let me finish.
Please finish. Go ahead, sir.
Don't forget what Buba Galadima said about Muslims drafting Buhari, that it was because they were afraid that the Yorubas were making moves with the OIC to seize Ilorin, and that was why they drafted Buhari. Buba Galadima said that on national television. I didn't say it myself. So what I'm trying to tell you is that the fight by Muslims to turn Christian majority Nigeria into an Islamic country has not stopped. So if Buhari's contribution is by starting a jihad, that is just issue. I am not praying for a breakup. I'm a very greedy man. Why I tell people, why should I accept IPOB's demand for 5 states when we can be part of 36 states? But it's difficult. The reasons why Tinubu is being accused of siding with the Fulani Jihad is because Tinubu is a Muslim. But I believe in my heart of hearts, Tinubu is only scheming for politics of 2027. And that's why he's not been upfront in dealing with the Fulani Jihad.
All right.
Is there a jihad? Yes, there is a jihad.
All right.
Are people being killed? Yes, they are being killed.
Yeah, point made.
These people being killed are the people who went to Washington and made the covenant. And who are the people? The Benue bishops.
All right,
Benue
Dr. Kach
is 98% Christian.
If you can hear me, the question I asked is this. There is, you know, history that suggests that most countries that the US have intervened in, most of the times, they don't go there because of that word love. As the Donald Trump administration is saying, we care for our Christian brothers and all of these things. It might not be on religious lines. Syria, Libya, Afghanistan, all of those countries that they have intervened, those countries never remain the same. Do you fear the same for Nigeria? That's my question.
I don't fear anything. You know why I don't fear anything?
Yeah.
It was our government that made the mistake. During the recent renegotiations with the jihadists, the government allowed the jihadists to keep their guns, to keep the territory that they have conquered, and that's what alarmed the international community. So when the coup came, the international community were afraid that Nigeria could go the same way as Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. And that's what you've seen that has prompted this new game. That Tinubu is incompetent in securing Nigeria, and maybe America should come, secure Nigeria, and stop the growing influence
and
of
you
the
think
jihadists.
if America, and you think if America would do all of that, they will just do it and leave, and there will not be consequences, and there will not be something in it.
I am not saying so, but I'm just telling you that it is the Nigerian actors that has given the Americans NATO. Can't you see? Canada say they will join. The NATO say they will join because they are afraid that Tinubu has proven incompetence to secure Nigeria.
And these
they
are
afraid. The West are afraid that Nigeria could go the same way as Mali,
so
Burkina Faso, and Niger.
Using your logic, Dr. Catch, why are they afraid? What's the need for them? This is our country. Why should they be bothered?
They are afraid that after 2 years of Tinubu's reign as president, he has not been able to calibrate a response to the Fulani jihad.
All right. Let me go to Dr. Lateef. Let me start from these yourself. I know you have some response to that submission, but don't you think, and I think you started earlier, but culpability must be returned to where it truly belongs. Either is the Obasanjo government of 1999 and then his predecessor, the late Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, the successor, Goodluck Jonathan, the late Muhammadu Buhari, or now 2 years of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Don't you think our leaders, we must really call them out seriously, that not just that they have done enough, some would say they have been largely irresponsible, that if actually they have not been lethargic about this issue, we will not be where we are right now. Look at the issue of Yellow-Water killing. It took the outrage of Nigerians for the president to say, oh, I'm changing my schedule, how we visit Benue. And when he visited, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the DCFR, only had the meetings in Makurdi. The people of Yellow-Water were expecting, and the presidency told us the roads were bad. Don't you think the Nigerian leaders, under whatever name and party, they have really thrown Nigerians under the bus, and it looks like they don't really care. And that's why the USA are saying whatever they are saying, and some Nigerians are agreeing with them.
Okay, let me go back to my opening remark here today, where I said that, look, there is no dispute about collective irresponsibility and failure of our political elite, at least since 1999 and now. I'm not going to sit down here and defend that. But that said, let me go back to the question you asked Dr. Kachi earlier, and I'll still come back to the other questions.
Yeah, quickly.
Now, you see, when you ask him if he fears the U.S. coming to Nigeria and all those things that he said, my brother, there is no single example of any country in the world that America has ever helped, in quotes, or invaded, without leaving them worse in ruin and destructions, than they met them in the first place. Just name it, and you've named some of them. There is no single example. So America going into any country, or with a threat of going into any country, although breaking international law, rules, and norms, is not something that I think any patriotic, and I would say responsible Nigerian should actually welcome or celebrate. And this is why I find it quite appalling that we have Nigerians at this time actually celebrating American coming. But the good news is that I don't see America coming in that version. I think, like I said earlier, Donald Trump is just bluffing and puffing like he has done almost everywhere. And if it comes at all, because they have the capacity, Nigeria will only become the worse for it. And I don't pray for that. Right. Having said that, Dr. Kachi also said quite a lot of things, which has now, in a way, convinced me that most of his opinion, with due respect to him, are rooted in controversies and based on his own prejudices. He has said a lot of things about this Muslim. I'm a Muslim, and I'm not apologetic about that, but I always try my best to be very objective, and I'm being very objective here. All those claims about Muslim trying to take over Nigeria, you know, I think those are just things that should be better left to be a parlor gossip where they belong. These are not rooted in facts. And the idea that the Muslims are trying to override Nigeria because they are the minority, they suddenly become, I mean, the whole of Southeast of Nigeria, 5 states, they are not even up to Kano State. What is the population of South compared to Kano State?
We have to go. We have to go.
Line of thoughts I don't usually like to peddle.
All right.
And I think those conspiracy theories are better.
All right, Dr. Lateef, I've been told we have less than a minute or thereabout. I'll take your last take on this, 15 seconds. How should...
My last take is that...
Hold on, sir. Hold on.
Okay.
How should President Bola Tinubu address this matter? Because either it's the late Buhari or Goodluck Jonathan or Obasanjo, President Tinubu is the one in charge right now. And some Nigerians voted for him. How should this be treated? Quickly, please.
I think the approach of the president so far has been quite modest and I would say well-reasoned, and I think they should sustain that. I think we should ignore the nuisance of Donald Trump and his fellow in America and seize upon this opportunity to address this crisis in our country.
All right. Dr. Kach, your last take on this matter.
Well, I want to debunk Lateef's words. He says that the whole population of Southeast Igbos is not up to that of Kano State. That's what he said. That just shows that. That's why I said a lot of commentaries are driven by ignorance. How can you say the whole Igbo people are not up to Kano State? That just shows you what it is. He said he's a Muslim, he's happy. Nobody is happy about what Nigeria is. I want the killings to stop. Lateef wants it to continue. He thinks it brings
No. He hasn't said that.
Advantage.
Dr. Lateef hasn't said that. He didn't say that. All right.
He loves the killings.
No,
he loves things to stay the way they are because he thinks it will bring advantage.
He doesn't. All right, gentlemen.
He's a member of Murik.
No. I like us to stay true to the issues. Thank you, gentlemen.
I have Christian in my family in south of Nigeria, where I am from.
You know you are a member of Murik.
I'm not. Oh my God.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. This will be the size of the program today. Dr. Kaj Ononuju and Dr. Lateef Alamu Lateef. They are both Nigerians. I'm Nigerian myself. You are Nigerians as well. Leaders need to take responsibility, because if actually we have to wait for foreign help or unsolicited help, and Nigerians are calling for them to come, it shows the leaders that we are right now, they are failing. The GCFR must do better. The service chiefs must do better. The governors must do better. Nigeria cannot afford to fall. This nation will not fall. But then it's not by willing. We must do better and do it very quickly with tangible results. Femi Ojo is my name. Thank you to everyone. And of course, we appreciate your comment and on this matter. Anytime you get to see these and those that are watching us live right now. I'll see you tomorrow again. I'm a Nigerian. Femi Ojo is my name. I'll see you tomorrow. God bless Nigeria.